Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, ECSI CEO and founder of the Breakfast Bankroll. Today, I have the man who knows so much about the Premier Lacrosse League. It seems like we're on that week on, week off, week on, week off. But today, we are a week on, even though they're a week off. So without further ado, my man, Mr. Dan Alexander. What is up, my brother?
Well, we've had so many off weeks ourselves, and technology is great until it isn't. I think that should be your and I's moniker for our weekly hit. Is technology awesome until it doesn't work at all? So we ended up missing getting to preview what was a terrific quarterfinal weekend. If you like underdogs, it was the weekend for you. So I'm happy to be back with you, Jeff. I missed you, brother, and we take no days off. We take no weeks off, even if it seems like the Premier Lacrosse League is, like you said, week on, week off, week on. So I talked with some people in the league, Jeff, and the reasoning behind that actually had something to do with they wanted to have some open windows in case they had any COVID issues. So rather than having to completely readjust their schedule, completely rebook venues and things like that, that is why it seemed like there were so many different bye weeks, just because they were trying to allow themselves some wiggle room. Credit to the league, they didn't have to use any of that wiggle room. We're heading into the semifinals in Philadelphia, and they haven't had one COVID issue to speak of. Testament to the league and the players as well, coaches following the protocols that are in place to keep everybody safe.
And I was trying to figure that out myself.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. We said sarcastically, I did, giving them an extra week off, getting them rested, getting the injured healthier. And there were some moves there where actually some teams were able to benefit, whether it's a trade, some add-ons, getting that team stronger for the playoff push. And as you just said, hats off. With the Delta strand, I think the NFL is going to find some problems as this goes. They added an extra week, but they didn't add an extra bye week either. So again, smart hats off, and just following you guys, following your timelines, watching the games. I mean, it was amazing. It absolutely was amazing. And I'm going to try my best right now to bring up the board right now, and I want you to break everything down to give us your perspective, what happened, talk about the tickets you guys cashed, the sweats, and everything about it, which happened last weekend.
Well, I mean, you see it on the board right there. It was upset central. The only favorite that ends up covering and winning the game was Atlas. And that's a team that you and I, if you rode with us here on the chats with Jeff and I, you could potentially be like me and holding a either plus 1,200 ticket. I have a plus 1,600 ticket from earlier in the season as well on Atlas, who is your 2 seed. And they just put a shellacking on the cannon. Sure, the final score said 13-9. It wasn't even that close. This Atlas team just seems like a runaway train. And now they're going to be playing against the team who always seems like they catch fire. They list through the regular season, the Chaos do, playing their box lacrosse, which is indoor lacrosse, the style that's more popularized up in Canada, north of the border, where we're from here, Jeff, in the United States of America. But they take the box principles that's really playing in close. It's really having strong stick skills with your on hand, as opposed to being ambidextrous and being able to switch from your right to your left, being able to find angles and openings even when a player is trying to force you to your non-dominant side. So the Chaos always seem like a team who they just don't make sense, what they do fundamentally. And then it's like playoff comes around, and I don't know if it's their coach who reminds me so much of Stone Cold Steve Austin and Andy Towers, that he just gets these guys jacked up, because come playoff time last year, when they had the championship series, which was kind of like a playoffs in Utah, all the games were right there. It was kind of like a bubble, like what the NBA ended up doing. The crazy thing was Chaos was one of the worst teams throughout group play. All teams ended up making it in for the playoffs. And then when playoffs came, Chaos gets a win. They get an upset, and then they end up in the championship game, eventually losing a fourth quarter lead to the Whip Snakes, who are another team we'll get to in our chat here today, who are reemerging again, and a team that I told you a couple weeks ago maybe get down on their plus 700 price, that we're holding that ticket as well. So last weekend was, if you like close games, if you like back and forth affairs, it was the weekend for you. You know, I look at that Whip Snakes game, who end up beating the Redwoods. This is now 2 straight postseasons, or excuse me, make it 3 straight postseasons, all 3 years. Guess who the Redwoods get to be eliminated by? Yep, it's the Whip Snakes. So it's been a tough row for Woods fans, but the thing is about this Whip Snakes team, there's a reason why they're the only champion the league has ever known. There's been 2 championships. The Whip Snakes have held each of them. Incredible chemistry, terrific coaching with their coach, Jim Stagnita, and just great leadership from the top down. Once they got their player back in Matt Rambo, who kind of got to rest all season long, even though he was nursing a wrist injury, he's the guy who has the last game, the last-minute heroics. So, I mean, I could talk all show long, Jeff, and we'll have no time to preview the betting board if I just talk about what a terrific product it was in quarterfinals weekend. Hats off to all the teams. I would have loved if the Cannons could have kept on rolling. They're one of the fun teams to watch in the league. But Atlas, it's a team who I've been banging the table since the beginning of the season. That team is for real, even though it's a bunch of young bucks who's on that team, Jeff.
All right, so week off. This gives us a chance to open up the board, show you the numbers that we're seeing. And what I really want to get into today is your initial thoughts when the lines come out, where you stand today, and then maybe a week later, next week, when we're talking about this, if you think maybe some of these numbers might be able to sway or move, I'm not saying you're going to double dip, but my thought is, do you see any movements that potentially could, shake the market here?
No, I wouldn't be shocked if the one that really stands out to me is the Whip Snakes, who they went into their game against the Redwoods as basically favorites heading into that game, even though they were the lower seed. And you're seeing that exact same thing here. The Whip Snakes, again, are favorites against the Water Dogs, who are coming off of a bye week. So that's one that kind of made me scratch my head, is when it opened up and you saw that the favorites were going to be the team who had just played a game. Now, as I look on your screen, looking like our odds are pretty similar, because sometimes we'll have some differences in the lines that you have up north and what I have in the area where I'm at, right outside of Philly. It's looking like they are the exact same. You got your Whip Snakes 1.5 point favorites, despite being the lower seeded team, and the Water Dogs coming off of a bye. You have the Chaos and the Atlas. Little bit of a short line, I might even say, as the Atlas are only 1.5 point favorites. Money line, 145. It's nothing to, pull off the rubber band about. But, I think we talked about what, Jeff, the big moneymaker for us early in the season was just seeing 2.5s and hammering those 2.5s. Since we cashed easy on those, we haven't seen those for weeks. So I think they're starting to find out, just line these like hockey games. You know what I mean? Do 1.5 and then shade the juice either way, rather than moving it to the 2.5, just because it's such an advantageous position when you're able to get a team in lacrosse getting more than a goal here. So it's not like when I look at this board, there's anything that screams out to me, which is actually good sometimes, because I feel like, and some of these plays that you fall in love with and you're like, oh, I can't lose. Those are some of the ones that, you start getting a little nutsy. You maybe don't practice the best bankroll management. So I like that you have to dive a little deeper. But it's been underdogs, man. It's been underdogs this whole entire season. Favorites have not really covered with very much regularity outside of the Atlas, are really the only team who, when they're laying 1.5, they continue to cover. The totals, I think you could be seeing some movement towards some overs, depending on if that's just going to be the juice or them completely moving the number. But one of the most important things, Jeff, is having different outs, because we're looking at the screen here. DraftKings, they are, you could argue, the originators on lacrosse lines. They're usually the first up with them. A new book, which we don't have in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you guys have it up north. Do you have Caesar Sportsbook up there yet?
No.
Okay, yeah. So I think like Illinois has it. I'm not sure all the states, but if your state has DraftKings and Caesars, The Whip Snakes are a team who keeps playing 1-goal games. Actually, as we run down their schedule here, their Chaos Redwoods game in week 8, it was a 1-goal game. Their their loss against the Archers was a 1-goal game. You go back to Redwoods Chaos, you were looking at a 2-score game there. But first week it was Cannons taking on Redwoods. So the Whip Snakes are a team who seems like they have continued to just be playing in some of these 1-goal games. So the thing is, if you shop around on lines, and the producer for our show, Hutton Jackson, he actually was able to get down some bets at Caesars. They have this game lined as the Water Dogs, the favorite 1.5-point favorites. And you have the Whip Snakes as the 1.5-point underdogs on DraftKings. You can make that same bet the other way and take the Water Dogs as 1.5-point favorites. So essentially what he did was he put, a unit and a unit. And then if it's a 1-goal game, Jeff, he's going to cash both those tickets. But regardless, he's going to be, whether if either of the teams cover, his loss is going to be negligible. It'll be, half a unit size, a quarter unit size. Now, it would be nicer if he was able to hedge that and not lay, minus 155 to get the points. But unfortunately, that's just how these games have been lined. So that would be something that I would look at doing just because of the regularity of 1-goal games that both of these two teams have played. You're basically betting on a close game. You're hoping for it to be a fun, close game. So sure, maybe you have a rooting interest one way or another on the team you actually want to cover the game. But when you're just rooting for a close game, that's a fun ticket to have. And honestly, I think it's not a bad bet to make because, like I said, the regularity that these two teams have been in close games.
When I opened up the sports book and I saw the odds and following you, listening to you, and all your shows, the one that popped out at me instantly was the Water Dogs plus the 1.5. Yes, a little juicy minus the 155. But I said, man, those boys are going to be all over this one. That just stood out to me.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. See, that's you hear the money sign in your ears because exactly that. I think it's just been so, I don't want to say easy because sports betting is never easy, but in this league, I have a feeling that the teams have kind of been paying attention to the lines and things like that a little bit more than maybe some other leagues, just because it's been so in their face. You know what I mean? They're all on social media. They can't scroll down without seeing our show or the PLL bet account or, all these other people who are, either tweeting at them or whatever. So I think this league, especially being in kind of a startup and really leaning into the betting space, they're hyper aware of these spreads. And I think that, the teams use that as bulletin board material. So anytime you get an underdog, I don't want to tell you it's an auto play because it's not. You need to have numbers to back it up. You need to have a strong handicap. I would never call anything an auto play, but exactly that, when I see, and I think the Whip Snakes are going to win this game against the Water Dogs. Full disclosure, if my co-host with the co-most, Doug Greenberg, is listening in, he's going to be screaming at his screen saying, "Newbie, what the hell, man? I thought we were boys, and you're not going with the Water Dogs." I just think the Whip Snakes have shown they have a championship pedigree. Once they added Justin Gutterding, a lot of people thought, "Oh, does that move the needle?" He hasn't really had a great season, the player out of Duke, and it comes down to the fact that they just have talent at every single position. Now, the thing that kind of stinks for Whip Snakes is their goalie, Kyle Bernlohr, who is a goalie for the United States men's team. He has not had the year that we have come accustomed to him. I don't know if it's, mental, with this, how this year has been. I don't fault anyone for not being at their absolute peak mental performance because every single day is a question mark. Every single day is, oh my God, I'm going into the grocery store. Am I going to catch this variant? Well, I am vaccinated. Well, I'm not vaccinated. Well, my friends are vaccinated and I am. So, I think being in a headspace for athletes, especially to be playing at their absolute peak performance this year, it's just, and last year as well, it's been something tough. So I don't know if that's where really Bernlohr has dropped off, but I don't know. I would maybe even look at the Whip Snakes a little bit on the money line, at 115 for a two-time champion. However, And I want to pick your brain on this, Jeff, because I mean, what you guys do with ECSI is terrific. I love, when we have our live read for ECSI on our cash consideration show. It's stop making sports betting as much of a guess and make it more of an investment. And that's why I want to pick your brain on the thought that if you look at any four of these teams, why not, if you think that they can, not only win this game, but go on to win the championship, why not build yourself an own parlay that is going to pay out better than if you parlayed the Whip Snakes at, plus 115, plus one or minus 115 and a minus 115, assuming it would be similar if they do end up winning this game, because you can get them on the future market at some spots at plus 250, 2.5 to 1. So what is your thought and the way that you look at when you're still able to place a future bet when you're in the semifinals? Isn't that basically, putting a parlay on a team to win 2 games, and maybe that's a better investment with your money if you really think that you have an advantageous position? Any thoughts on that, Jeff?
I'm so glad you brought this up. Okay, I'm going to backtrack to the NBA. Philadelphia was playing Atlanta. The Bucks were playing the Nets. Now, we had at ECSI, we had a 76ers future to win the Eastern Conference and the NBA championship.
I had the same tickets, Jeff. I'm sorry. I'm sorry on behalf of Philadelphia.
But it gets better because Embiid got hurt, okay? So they were minus 300 or 280 to beat Atlanta. Now, you take a look at the Bucks. The Bucks were plus 180 to beat the Nets, okay? So we're sitting here with the 2 futures on the 76ers, and I said to myself, our team, and then I released the ECSI, why take the Bucks plus 180 when you can go and get them to win the Eastern Conference at plus 275, and you can get them at plus 650 to win the NBA championship? And what we were doing was hedging the fact that Embiid was hurt. So we come out smelling like a rose, because even though we didn't get Philly versus the Bucks, we got a Bucks team that was minus 400 against Atlanta, and then they were short dogs plus 150 against the Suns. So anyone that wanted to hedge their bet going into the championship, they were guaranteed 3 units. So yes, you are spot on, my friend, spot on.
Well, I love to hear that, because I'll use another drop here from one of my favorite movies, Mr. Deeds.
Genius, genius, genius.
I mean, that's when you can beat the book, so to speak, and have a position where, like you said, you're going to come out smelling like roses no matter what you step in, as the old saying goes to say. But, the way that I look at it, if you look at your future market, and again, I would suggest shopping around at some of these numbers, because I can get some better prices on some of these teams on BetMGM as opposed to DraftKings. But if you look at the futures, where we're at here, we have the Whip Snakes plus 175, Water Dogs plus 250, Atlas plus 275, and Chaos plus 400. So if you're really one of these believers in Andy Towers and their team, why not, either take that Chaos at plus 400, or the way that I would probably do it is take a team like the Water Dogs, the Whip Snakes, or the Atlas and find your best futures price on them. Take one of those teams that you think is going to win their game, because let's say you get a ticket now on the Whip Snakes plus 250. So the Whip Snakes, if they win this game, they're going to be favorites the next game. You're going to be getting money or be able to be getting points with whoever they play, be it the Atlas, be it Chaos. It doesn't matter. They will be the favorites in that game. I think that's true to speak for the Whip Snakes Water Dogs game. Whoever wins that game is going to be the favorite coming in the semifinals, or in the finals, excuse me, in DC. So if you really think that, Whip Snakes or Water Dogs are going to win, place your future on them. You can get Water Dogs at some shots at plus 300 still. You can get Whip Snakes at up to plus 250. Place that ticket, and then once the semifinals end and the finals roll around, play the other team on the money line. Let's say it's Atlas, whether they're only plus 105 or whatever, you have guaranteed that you will be having a profit no matter what happens in that game. And that's why, Jeff, you don't want to bet with your heart. You want to bet with your head. But I'll tell you what, I'm rooting with my heart this coming weekend in Philadelphia, where I will be at the games, cheesesteak in belly, ready to go for both of these terrific games that will be Sunday afternoon, September 5th. So Labor Day weekend, get a projector up, sit by the pool, and enjoy these games, because I have a ticket. And, I hate being like, oh, here's your pat on the back, but I have the Whip Snakes at plus 700, as I said earlier. I have Atlas at plus 1,600. So having those two teams on the opposite side of the bracket, I'm a huge Atlas fan this weekend. I'm a huge Whip Snakes fan this weekend, because if those two teams win, I mean, that's nice money in your pocket. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but that's regardless who wins with a $100 bet. If that's your 1 unit size, you could be having potentially up to a $1,500 payout versus a $400 payout. So, I think that there is some major rooting interest for me this weekend, and that's why I'm trying to remove that from the equation. I have no official plays yet, and that's why I can't wait until we go next week, because I think what we'll do next week, Jeff, is we'll plan for maybe Wednesday, but what we're going to have to wait for is when they put out the player props. Because knock on wood, I have just been destroying the player props. Since I came on at Wager Talk, I'm 9-3 overall in all my picks. That's a nice return on investment. But the player props, Jeff, 4-0, and not even sweaty cashes. We had a guy who was a 1 goal over under to score 1 goal. Both games, he was a 1 goaler. His name is Miles Jones. Hat trick in both games. Easy money. Last week, I messaged you, even though our technology didn't work, I was able to at least get a message over to you that Justin Gutterding, a guy who you will not be seeing with a low goal total this coming week, he had a half, 0.5. No, I'm not misspeaking. No, your computer didn't break out. 0.5. So all he needed was 1 goal for us to go over and cash that ticket. Not talking about a push, because I think it's an advantageous position when you see anybody without a goal hook. When you see just 1 goal or lower, that's an auto play for me, so to speak. Again, no such thing as auto plays, because a lot of the times that they are on offense, the worst you're going to be doing is pushing on that bet. So within 2 minutes of the game last week, Justin Gutterding comes on the second line midfield. He makes an incredible move, rips one from the top of the key. Boom, the bet cashes. We're drinking champagne by the end of the first quarter, Jeff. It was beautiful, man. And that's what you need to look for, because the market, I think you and I have both seen it this year since we started doing this show to where we're at in the semifinals. The market has gotten smarter. And, we took advantage of a bad market for, let's say the first 3-4 weeks of the season. But credit to the odds makers. They put their nose to the grindstone, and they have definitely gotten smarter. They have gotten better at lining these games. So where is the value going to lie? You can still find value in the NBA and the NFL and the NHL, these major market sports that are heavily bet. Major League Baseball. There's too much on the board for the bookmakers to pay attention to these fringe player props. That's where the money's going to be made the rest of these weeks. And also, Jeff, stay tuned to you and I on Twitter, because they're offering live betting now. They are offering live spreads, live money lines, live over-unders. So that was some nice tickets I cashed just watching those games as well, because there's some major advantageous positions you can get in lacrosse in live betting just because of what a game of runs that it is.
And you brought up the fact, again, is what we're trying to do here is to educate. Our thought process to have this show is, listen, we say it every day. It all cashes the same. So whether you have an MLB ticket, whether you have a Premier Soccer ticket, whatever it is, they all cash the same at the window. So we're here to educate. You guys do an amazing job of it. You're bringing up thoughts that other people aren't thinking of in this market. Why play the game Water Dogs Whip Snakes when you can then make a stance and go into the futures market? Again, the general public, the degens, a lot of them aren't aware of it. They're not aware of the player props. And here comes the in-game. So you technically, if you get the dream scenario 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now in the championship, You're sitting there with 2 huge plus tickets. You're just going to sit there in the live game and it's fish in a barrel. Okay,
That's what I mean. I might not even bet pre-flop if I have, a plus 1,600 and a plus 700. Obviously, I'm going to dive in for the people who look for my insight, who check me out on Wager Talk, who check out Bet on Lacrosse. Just because I have a ticket that I'm cashing already doesn't mean that you do. And just what Jeff said, we take time out of our day here, not only because we enjoy it. I mean, I love what Jeff and I do. I would be lying if I didn't say we have the best job in the whole entire world. We get to talk about sports and we get to meet great people like each other and exchange like ideas. So don't get me wrong. I love what I do, but I also really enjoy making people better bettors because, that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, I love it when people say, I listen to your show. Your best bets have been getting me great money. Like, if you truly have cashed with us, drop me a line on Twitter. I'll follow you back. I'll retweet you. I'll chat back and forth with you because I love this and I wouldn't do it if I didn't want you to win the exact same as me to win. I'm not in this to make money for myself. I'm not in it. Obviously we all want to cash tickets, but I just love talking about lacrosse. I love talking about sports betting. And now that those two have just combined and collided, I'm a pig in slop every time I get to do one of these live shows with you, Jeff. And worth mentioning, you talked about that dream situation. Well, a dream situation happened for us last week in live betting. The Whip Snakes, who ended up coming back and winning the game against the Redwoods, they were down by as much as I believe 4 to 5 goals. So there were times in that game once you started getting into the third quarter and the Woods were looking like, hey, they were going to be cruising to a win. There were some plus 280 money lines. So you could have been holding on to a ticket if you listened to Bet on Lacrosse, the Redwoods plus 1.5. You're holding on to that ticket, and then in game you get to play on the team who ends up winning plus 280. They only win by 1 goal. You cash both of their tickets, and instead of eating ramen for the week, you're eating filet mignon, and that's what it's about, Jeff.
Well, listen, I can't wait for next week. As you said, we'll have the player props. We'll check the futures market. We'll really zone in, release a couple plays, and then hopefully 2 weeks from now in the championship, as you talked about, maybe some actual live in-game wagers that these guys are going to be able to say, hey, I got a futures ticket from 2-3 weeks ago. The following week, they gave me some player props. Now these guys are foaming at the mouth and saying, newbie, let's talk, brother. Let's talk.
That's what it's all about, Jeff. That's what we love. And as far as, we always like to give out actionable info, at least give out one play. I personally have not bet anything on this board yet because of it being 2 weeks away. I had my opening numbers and they were exactly what ended up coming up. So what I'm doing this week is something that I don't typically do. What I like doing is having my numbers and hitting them on the openers. That's my favorite way to bet, and then watch the market mature. What I'm doing for this semifinal round, especially since I already have those tickets, I'm waiting for this market to mature a little bit more because I think you can get a better price on the Whip Snakes, whether you like them to win the game outright. It's already ticked down. They opened, I believe, at around 120, and depending on where you're shopping, they're already down to minus 115. And if you like the Water Dogs, I guess that would be the opportunity that I would say bet it now. But I just think even that value is dried up. I'm not going to be, laying 1.5 units just to get a 1.5 goals with the Water Dogs. So I just don't think there's as much value on the board. That's why, wait to get a little bit of action. You know what I mean? You don't just have to place a bet just because the lines are open and, I want to be the first. Wait for the market to mature a little bit. It's usually not my strategy, but that's why you have to be fluid in sports betting. I think it is the strategy to attack this weekend and this coming weekend in Philadelphia. And, we'll take a snapshot of the lines today, Jeff. And when we talk, a week from today, on Wednesday of next week, we'll get to see, did the market agree with us? Is there any new information that maybe you and I weren't thinking about that the Whip Snakes have now become more of a favorite? We'll see in a week's time, but I don't think there's anything worth tying up your bankroll for 2 weeks on the board just currently, outside of maybe placing a future. If you think the Water Dogs are going to do it or the Whip Snakes are going to do it, place them on them to win the championship and get your parlay set up. That's really the only actionable info I have for this week.
In closing, Stage is yours. Tell everyone where to find you, social media, and we got a week for the build-up for these playoffs, and let's get some more followers. Let's get some more action here going.
Yeah, and Jeff does a terrific job getting this show set up. You see the scroll at the bottom. Those are all the places you can find me. Newbie Talks on Twitter. You see it over my head there. Bet on Lacrosse. Cask and Sid show. Awesome show this week. We had Dave Damashek on. Hilarious. You will laugh your ass off listening in this week. Sorry, no, it's a family show, but I went back into my cash considerations vibe when I'm sitting in my chair here. Sometimes the four-letter words fly with a little more regularity. So if you like some fun shows, Bet on Lacrosse, Cash and Sid show, terrific stuff. Of course, you can always check me out. I start up with my play-by-play again with 8:30 a.m. WEEU. Got high school football and local sports coming up. And then, as always, WT.buzz/DA. I give out free picks all the time, free analysis. Check out my page at Wager Talk. They do a terrific job. I produce the shows behind the scenes. If you're a football fan, you have to check out Wager Talk this coming football season, because what me and the executive director of our technical side of things, Joe Ranieri, what he, Chris, Robert, myself, James, our whole production team, Will, the graphics guy, what we have worked up for football season is going to blow your freaking mind. So you need to come. You need to check out our shows over at wagertalk.com, Wagertalk TV. I'm super excited, Jeff. As you can tell, I got to cool myself off. I'm pumped up. I'm ready to go for next week, and I can't wait to be back with you, because I think we're going to be able to find some advantageous positions coming up in lacrosse this weekend. But as always, brother, love doing this. We could do another 3 hours daily, and if you like what Jeff's doing, just wait, because we have some things behind the scenes as well when we're talking about ramping up the graphics and whatnot. This show may even get elevated a little bit too here in the coming weeks. So it's going to be fun, Jeff, and I'm excited to be along the ride with you, brother.
I can't thank you enough. What I have learned in the short time is only going to benefit me now down the stretch, and then in the off season start to do more homework so I get ready for the following season as we progress here with some new ideas and stuff. And I can't thank you enough. And I'm trying to see something here. Okay. We had a couple comments, but we'll save those for the peanut gallery.
Hey, if they want to hit the comments, what do we got? Anything? Anybody have any questions that they want to throw, or were they just saying, "What the hell is with Newbie's jersey"? Is that what they were asking, Jeff? It's a LeBron James high school jersey, baby. I go way back with Bron.
Well, a couple people wanted to ask is, do you want to become famous? And I'm already gonna bite my tongue on that, because you already are, and the stage is only getting bigger, and the Prem League is lacrosse is only getting bigger. So super stoked! Another amazing show. We're gonna get ready next week for some. We'll check the futures market. We'll check the props. Everyone stay tuned. We're going to shoot for Wednesday. If not Wednesday, obviously we have Thursday. No internet issues, hopefully, God willing, for either one of us.
Wired in, brother. We're wired in. We're good to go. We're jacked up. And again, the games are in Philadelphia. So anybody listening from my area, super easy. It's going to be at the Union Stadium. Tickets are still available. So I highly suggest going out and seeing some live action. And Jeff, when you were talking about getting ready and gearing up for the next season of PLL, well, you're not getting rid of me that easy, because come December, we'll be talking indoor lacrosse and the National Lacrosse League. So you don't get all the way off until next summer. I won't allow it, Jeff. You're stuck with me for the rest of the year now, brother.
I can't wait. I can't wait. So from myself, Jeff Dawson, Dan, thank everyone for watching, viewing. If you're not following us, just go to social media. EC Sports Invest on Twitter. I'll follow you right back. I'll answer any question. The door's open 24/7, 365. And with Dan here, the list is endless, and he does reply back, and real fast. So everyone here, if you're wagering, always bet with your head, not your heart. If you have a problem, just pick up that phone. There's an 800 number and plenty of people to help. So listen, best of luck this weekend. Enjoy your time off until next weekend, and we will see everyone here, God willing, Wednesday.